Hey there, David. Can we talk about the logical problem of the Trinity?
Child marriage is still a thing in Muslim countries.
Okay, that doesn't seem relevant to the topic, but can we talk about why Jesus was never mentioned as part of a Godhead in the Old Testament?
Child marriage is still a thing in Muslim countries.
Okay, can we talk about the logical contradiction between God's merciful nature and him killing his own son for no reason in Christianity?
Child marriage is still a thing.
Okay, can you tell us who wrote the Bible?
Child marriage.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Islamic podcast. If you're a Muslim or if you're a Muslim apologist and you're debating a Christian, you may have noticed this pattern where you corner the Christian on a very specific topic, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they will just throw in these buzzwords, right? They will throw in something like child marriage, marriage, etc., etc. They think that this is somehow the trump card, where they can just shove this card in our faces and we'll just melt like vampires.
Indeed.
I've made videos on this channel debunking this Chicken One David Wood and like Apostasy Prophet playlist. One thing these grifters will often overlook or just straight up ignore is the fact that Christianity absolutely allows child marriage. And let's start with the Old Testament. So if you read Numbers 31 to 15, it's 31:15 to 18, it says the following.
"Have you allowed all the women to live?" he asked them. They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and enticed the Israelites to be unfaithful to the Lord in the Peor incident, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. Now kill all the boys, and kill every woman who has slept with a man. But save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man.
Basically, this is Moses criticizing his forces after they committed a genocide against the Amalekites. Now, this last sentence is important. Listen to what he's saying. But save for yourself every girl who has never slept with a man. Now, you may wonder, why is Moses, this prophet of God, telling his soldiers to save themselves every girl, doesn't mention any age, who has never slept with a man? You see, the word that is used in this verse, the Hebrew word for girls, is hatta. Now, if you look at this last word, tab, this word is oftentimes used to refer to children. You see all the verses that contains this word, and all of them refers to children. Again, this is clear-cut evidence that this is referred to child marriage. But there is more evidence to this. Now, to completely destroy and absolutely seal the deal, all you need to do is look at the Jewish commentary. The Jewish people, they have a tradition of preserving their commentaries, right? This is something that has been passed down generation to generation. So let's read. So in Talmud, Kiddushin 78a 19, it says the following.
The Mishnah states that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says that the daughter of a convert and a Jewish woman is fit to marry into the priesthood. It is taught in a Baraita. Rabbi Shimon ben Yohai says, a female who converts at less than 3 years and 1 day old is fit to marry into the priesthood. As it is stated after the war with Midian. But all the female children who have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Numbers 31:18. i.e., you may marry them.
Here in this Talmud, Rabbi Yohai clearly says that Jewish rabbi can marry girls who are under the age of 3. Like you could literally marry 2-year-old children. That is what they're describing. 2 to 3-year-old children. This is child marriage. This is how rabbis have always understood this verse. It refers to child marriage. Like there's no arguments after this. And the only argument they had was not about whether or not child marriage was wrong or right. It was about whether or not you can marry these children or whether you can make them your concubine. That was the debate they were having. Now, this is not the only place where child marriage is allowed. And in Nidda 45a, it says,
Similarly, Rabbi Yohanan maintains that there is a second Tana who says that 30 days in a year are considered equivalent to a full year. And therefore a girl can be betrothed by intercourse from the age of 2 years and 30 days.
Now, the thing is that a lot of Christians could argue and say that, but this is just talking about betrothal, right? It's not talking about like a consummation of the marriage. But here, this Rabbi Yonan, absolutely make it clear that no, this is not just talking about some kind of marriage contract. This is talking about literally intercourse. Then in Berakot 24:8-12, the Talmud, it says,
Until what age is one still considered a minor? Rav Hizda said, A girl until she is 3 years and 1 day old, and a boy until he is 9 years and 1 day old. For these are the ages from which a sexual act in which they participate is considered a sexual act.
And these people point finger at Islam. Now some disagree and they say that it's actually 11 years old or 12 years old, but all this is considered minor marriage or child marriage. So my question to all the Christians who may object to this is very simple. Let's say that this was wrong, right? The Jews, they have the law, that was wrong. That's allowing child marriage, that was wrong, right? Why did Jesus never condemn this? If this is wrong, you would expect Jesus to condemn this. He never did. As a matter of fact, he said the opposite. In Matthew 5:17, he says, Do not think that I have come to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Please note, Jesus was fully aware of what those laws were. He was aware. But he didn't say he came to denounce the laws. He came to fulfill them. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this, because he often criticized rabbis and their practices. And there are many criticisms of rabbis in the New Testament. Please note, he never criticized them for child marriage. And there can be two explanations for this. Either Jesus doesn't know that minor marriage is wrong, which is impossible because in Christianity he is considered God, or he didn't know about it and he didn't think it was wrong. And based on that, if you still think that child marriage is wrong, then you have to say that Jesus is morally wrong. Again, it's a question I would ask Christians. Please note, this is not an argument from silence, because an argument from silence is basically when you have silence of someone, and based on the silence, you say that he is either right or wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is no silence here. He is literally saying he agrees with the Old Testament. And there is no evidence that he thinks that child marriage is wrong. Therefore, we have absolutely every right to think that Jesus approved of this. For thousands of years, Catholics and all forms of Christians allowed child marriage. In Catholic Encyclopedia, it says the following.
By the common law, the age at which minors were capable of marrying, known as the age of consent, was fixed at 14 years for males and 12 years for females.
We have seen the evidence. You cannot escape anymore.
Please note, 2 of your girls are not adults. This is minor marriage, this is child marriage. Now, what's interesting is that Thomas Aquinas, celebrated Catholic thinker, himself says that the age of marriage can happen at the age of 7. Again, you can find this on Summa Theologica. He says the following.
I answer that. The age of 7 years is fixed reasonably enough by law for the contracting of betrothals. For since a betrothal is a promise of the future, as already stated, Article 1, it follows that they are within the competency of those who can make a promise in some way.
So he clearly says that age of marriage can be at the age of 7. Christian pastors and early Christian church leaders clearly allowed minor marriage. Jesus clearly allowed minor marriage or child marriage. The Old Testament definitely allowed child marriage. Then my question is to the Christians is following. If child marriage is wrong because of today's standards, then why didn't Jesus condemn it? Now the thing is that this question was asked to many Christian apologists, and the best answer they can come up with is things like virtue ethics, which has nothing to do with the Bible. So in case you guys don't know, virtue ethics is basically what Aristotle and some Christian apologists argue is that virtue comes from your character, or it comes from something internal that is internal. You have these internal instincts, and based on these instincts, you say that, this is wrong or this is right. Where is this in the Bible? This is nowhere in the Bible. And even if I were to accept that, okay, you know what? Let's say for logical reasons that virtue ethics is something you can adapt as a Christian. let's say for the sake of argument that you can adapt this position that whatever I think is right, and whatever I think is wrong, and based on this, child marriage is wrong. Then why can't this same logic be applied to idol worshippers or pagans, for example? Let's say that there's someone who internally feels that there's nothing wrong with worshiping both Jesus and Krishna at the same time. Like, who are you to say that that person is wrong under virtue of this? No one. So under virtue of this is completely justified. But of course, then all of a sudden you will appeal to scripture, right? So here, basically, Christians become completely inconsistent in order to defend this position. You could have other objections to this, right? For example, you could argue that, well, yeah, sure, in the past, Christianity allowed, or Jesus allowed, it's kind of like child marriages, but that's only for that time, right? Sure, it was allowed at that time, but then later on things changed, people changed, so our laws changed as well, right? And I'm sure David would like give the example of Caesar, and like Jesus saying that unto Caesar what's Caesar's, right? Basically meaning that the land that you live in is the law that you should go by. Except here's the problem. Moses didn't go by the law of the land. Did he? When he committed genocide? Of course he didn't. His soldiers didn't. So again, this becomes inconsistent. How are you deciding then when you should live by the land and when you should not live by the land? Jesus violated Roman law. He was considered a criminal according to the Jewish law and the Roman law. He was persecuted for this, right? So then why didn't he live by the law of the land, right? So all of this becomes completely inconsistent for the Christian position. You cannot argue and say that, we're just going to live by whatever law is in the land. But you don't live by all the law in the land. We know this throughout history. If Christians ever want to say that, Christianity is all about love and whatnot, and it has nothing to do with child marriage, simply show them this video. Okay, this debunks, absolutely destroys this claim that, it has nothing to do with child marriage. No. Christianity allows child marriage, and Jesus knew the law, and he allowed it as well. He never objected to this. And the church fathers all allowed it. The Catholic Church and all the other church fathers, all the Protestant church leaders, they all allowed it until only recently. So based on the law, based on your own scripture, you have no moral ground to say that Christianity doesn't allow child marriage. It clearly does. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support me, you can support me by becoming a Patreon. I'll see you guys next time, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.